It's actually almost been a full year since I started the program. And it's really funny. Today, I had a student say, I heard you have Lyme disease. And what is that about? And it was funny because all I wanted to do was share how much I've healed and how much better I am. And I did explain a lot of that. And all the protocols and all the treatments that I did, nothing compared to the work that I did in the LTI program, and how I feel like I'm living a much fuller life now than I was before. And it was a really great opportunity to reflect on that and how these practices that I learned, I apply them to my everyday life. And it's hard to put into words how much I've healed and how much things have changed. But it's kind of beautiful to sit back to see how far we've come, and how a year ago I thought, how will I ever do this and make the changes? And I was so hesitant to commit and afraid. But once you start doing the course, everything, you're doing the work, and it's worth every moment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I mean, I'm the one who's like so excited because I see all these people living in such a different way, but it's really nice to hear it from the people who are doing it, because it's not all roses, it's some hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And when it pays off, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
That was probably my biggest concern, was I already had a long laundry list of, let's say, less flattering personality traits or habits from a previous toxic relationship. So I had these ruminating in my mind all the time. And my biggest fear was, what am I going to discover about myself that A, could have potentially been true from his perspective, and B, are things that I'm discovering about myself that I myself don't like very much. And it wasn't just the fact that I changed my own view of myself and became more empowered, but I learned how to set boundaries. I learned how to pay attention to my body and honor my body. I found that I had a tremendous amount of mental and spiritual growth outside of having any physical symptoms. But all of that, I feel like, has potentially, hopefully, prevented any physical symptoms, but also just made life much more easier to manipulate, to manage, and less apt to be manipulated now, because I recognize others' intentions and I set boundaries for myself.
It's amazing. And I remember you saying that right at the beginning, that was your intention. And it's so amazing to watch how that's happened for you. Setting boundaries is something that sounds like, how could setting boundaries like really heal a massive underlying condition? But it's not just one boundary. It's so many boundaries that are crossed that contribute to people collapsing and not aligning with their strength. And when you find the power and learn how to set one boundary that holds yourself in a better way, that sets you up for success setting the next. And it's a process that can only really be done step by step as you gradually learn to feel yourself in a new way. You take off the lens that has been distorting your view. Because so many people perceive that their problems are because of external things, either because of what he's done to me, she's done to me, my boss has done to me, my circumstances, my diagnosis, this situation. And what I see time and time again is that people's entire lives change. The external circumstances eventually change, but the change people feel inside precedes any external change, which is just amazing. It really shows us that our health and our state of mind, it comes from within.
A big thing for me was understanding prior to this course, the word trauma to me meant a big event. Mm-hmm. And what I learned is that through my meditations, through connecting with my inner child, I learned that I had little traumas that were actually manifested as really big things and ways that I carried myself and in my relationships. And those were kind of bigger than some of the traumatic events that were still important, but these little things shaped me. And I really began to understand myself and how I behaved and how I interacted with others. That was all connected to my inner healing, boundaries. it's like, why do I always want to please everybody and be a perfectionist? Like there's reasons for this and that, so it was just so fascinating to me. And I say this to people all the time, like to validate your experiences. It may not have been a big traumatic event that someone would define, but little traumas add up and that stuff is in your body and you need to heal from those things.
And I want to even say a few more things about trauma. And I have never met anyone with chronic anything for which there isn't some degree of suppressed emotion that is intertwined into the condition. And some of these things, are things like nobody saw me. Nobody cared how I was feeling. Nobody was there for me. These are daily things that as a child really, really weaken the person's overall resilience to make them much more susceptible to chronic pain, anxiety, depression, and depending on how they reacted, even some cancers. And these unmet needs, they live in our body. And in this program, we use meditation as medicine. So we take meditation beyond learning how to still the mind into feeling what each person, and it's an individual thing, what do you have stored in your body? And it sounds like, oh no, there could be a monster in the closet, but it doesn't come like that. It comes in very small and gradual pieces. And it's like the boundaries when you learn to feel that and you learn how to access it and actually meet your authentic need that is getting displaced into some kind of pain or behavior that doesn't really serve you. Once you redirect that once, like talk about that, like that's like the most exhilarating thing. People are like, wait a minute, I meditated, I felt that, I did this, and like this entire thing in my life has changed. It's kind of remarkable.
Probably one of my biggest epiphanies was I have always been super responsible, very conscientious. I've always been a hard worker. Those were always things that made me proud of myself, which they're all admirable qualities. But some of those came at a price. I had to put forth a bigger effort. I had to make people proud of me in order to feel like I was being seen. So there's always two perspectives, but having been through the course and now understanding some of those small traumas and the responses to those traumas throughout the years have made more sense as to why I ended up where I ended up, that I needed to leave because it wasn't healthy. So it's taught me how to forgive myself for making some of the things that I was ashamed of, making some of those choices that I was ashamed of, seem less painful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're talking about having more compassion for yourself.
That's right. That's right.
Understanding of how you got this way and how the traits that you so celebrated also had a shadow side.
Yeah.
So being able to really look at the shadow side too. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the somatic approach versus the talking approach. There's a lot of people that come to my program have been in talk therapy for a lot of years. And many people are pretty well aware of their issues, but not necessarily feeling like they have a lot of cerebral understanding of how they got where they are. So they could listen to this story and like, I know my issues, I know how I got there. But there's a really big difference from knowing it in your head and feeling it in your body.
Mm-hmm.
None of the people that I have worked with that have had years of talk-based therapy were very well versed in the language of body listening and inner listening that we focus a lot of energy on. It's kind of outside the talk-based therapy paradigm. And I love talk-based therapy. I've done plenty of it in my life and it's helped me a lot. And there's another component that I believe is really necessary in order to get beyond managing into transforming. And this is what we're after. We're after extending the upper limit of what's possible.
I know for myself, and this is by using meditation as medicine, to tune in so that I didn't realize that I used to walk around anxiety ridden in my stomach. I've always kind of felt like I've had this black pit and hole in my stomach for years. And that just became my normal. It wasn't until I would go into my daily meditation to connect to my body to find out, like, what did that kind of pit have to say to me and what was going on there? And that all the talking and I could do and be in my mind my body was still holding on to so many emotions and so much. And so it was when I began to use meditation as medicine and to be able to connect with my body on a daily basis to find out what it had to say to me and how much healing I could do by connecting to that.
And most people, when they start out, if you tell them, go and listen to what your gut is telling you, like people like look at you funny. And so that is a steep learning curve, learning how to, it doesn't take long. It's just steep because you have to get over the mental block, but relatively pure beginners. This is what I have observed within 4 weeks of this practice that I teach, within 4 weeks of committing to it regularly, people who had otherwise, in some cases, no meditation experience can actually feel through tensions in their body and see images, flashbacks, have conversations with their bodies, and really get specific direction on what is needed right now. So you get shown the next step. It takes about 4 weeks of intensive commitment to meditation, which is something we should also talk about, because that daunts people, the idea of getting to the meditation. So if either you have anything to say about that. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, and for me, the effort I get so much out of it. My life, it's so apparent to me that my life flows 100 times better when I'm doing my practice. So I motivate myself to do it easily because I have seen how much it gives me. But it wasn't always like that. And my head swirls with 3,000 ideas regularly. And so there was, for me, quite an arduous process of learning how to be still. It wasn't something that came easily to me. And I think I have managed to accelerate the process for other people by providing more support.
I remember when you said at the beginning, before I started the course, that I needed to be able to commit to the daily meditation. And that felt very overwhelming at the beginning. But like you said, once I got into things and the rhythm, it's something I lean on, that I look forward to, that I have created a daily practice. And it became easier to get into that every day.
Also, there's an opportunity to ask a lot of questions. So when people often falter because they're expecting something to happen in the meditation. And here they came on the Facebook Live and hear about Tara talking to her belly, and people start trying things and they don't have like bright lights flashing right away. And so they get a little bit discouraged. So, that's part of the process of me getting to know people. People can send me emails, or, we hop on these group calls and people really talk about like the nitty gritty of how it's going. And so they can ask questions and soon discover that they're not the only person with these kinds of struggles.
I loved how you were always able to decipher the actual emotion connected to the struggles I was having, right? So, I understand what compassion is, but I wasn't paying attention to the fact that I was lacking self-compassion in some of my situations that I was challenged with, until you said, how's your capacity for compassion? And it was always so exciting to me to hear you almost like read between the lines. And not that I needed a label, but to read between the lines for me to better understand and articulate what I was needing or what I was feeling.
Being a somatic therapist is a great acceleration of intuition. So when I'm sitting with people, it's like the story they're saying and then the feeling of what they're not saying. So this is sort of the guidance is to help people feel that for themselves. So people won't be dependent on me, that they'll actually, and I can actually say to great success that people in the program, people need varying degrees of support depending on what they're coming in with. And so we have to work to make a plan that meets the needs of each person, because depending on how much other support they have in their life, how long they've been sick, how long they've had a life obstacle, how supportive their environment is versus stressful, how much rest they can have, how much nature they can have, we have to customize the support. And so I also am doing at this point, a lot of case management for people in the holistic world, trying to help them navigate through all the other therapies that people tend to pursue without really understanding how they fit together, and really wanting to orient people to how much can you heal within yourself? And the answer is always so much more than you know. And then draw on your team, your health team, learn to build a health team that fills in the gaps of what's more than you can do on your own. Rather than how most people do it, which is go around trying to find practitioners that will save them from themselves and their pain, whatever they're in. And in my orientation, I am teaching people how to heal themselves, how to direct their own healing. And then you're in charge. And us, your therapists we're in service to what you know is what you need, as opposed to the other way around.
I used to think, oh, this person will save me. This person will have all the answers, like this practitioner or healer. And in the end, I had those answers and I was able to heal myself. And that's when you end up feeling very powerful. That's exciting to know that you have the power to heal within, with the guidance of the program and the support of the group and your guidance and mentorship, Alyssa. It's, those are kind of all winning combinations. And the support and friendship we've made with these people that we've done the courses with, it's a lifelong bond that we still rely on each other and go to each other. And, we've been through something quite special. And so that's something else you get when you take the program, is an amazing group of people, of humans that you connect with. And that even after you're done the course, that continues and your learning and growing continues.
I was very excited about getting to know myself better too. I felt like I had lost myself. So it was exciting to me, with the feedback from the group as well as the meditations, to really get to know me and to better understand how my mind works and how my emotional body is the way it is and how I can better manage all that.
It's kind of scary how many people don't really know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They like themselves.
I'm still working on it. So
yeah, there's a lot of effort to really meet ourselves as we are and accept, like, we've done the best we can.